be here. Great job by the Magic Fingers. As folks know, I'm wrapping up my tenure as ambassador, and I do have a drum like that, and I think maybe if I can get some pointers, I'll be launched on a new career here very soon. Maybe after this, I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, distinguished guests all, Your Worship, the Mayor, Mr. Erling, my close diplomatic colleagues who are here, and including our at the head table UN Rep Khadija Musa, and all of you, the Blue Caps, and the member or members of the media, if anybody else has come through. Really delighted to be here today as part of the closing ceremony for what I'm sure has been a great training program for you. And I know some of the people involved in providing the training, and I'm sure you're getting the very best. I couldn't agree more with the theme of the program: creating the future begins with cultivating the leaders of tomorrow. And I'm sure that you are all well cultivated at this point. As you may have noticed, I've done a lot of interviews in the past couple of days and weeks, and one of the most commonly asked questions I get is, what aspects of your time here in Guyana, what aspects of your job have you enjoyed the most? And my answer consistently has been working with the young people of Guyana and seeing through all of you the bright future that this country has in the years to come. I've seen, for example, we have had 26 youth ambassadors who have participated in cultural exchange programs to broaden their understanding of community service and to develop their skills as community leaders. President Obama, as many of you are aware, actually started his career as a community organizer, and so he's done quite well from that kind of a beginning. And that knowledge that he had in communities continues to serve him very well today. In this great country, youth volunteers have helped heighten awareness, especially among young people, about the harmful effects of littering. Through the Guyana Shines program, volunteers have worked in schools and communities to encourage citizens to become part of the solution and to keep their neighborhoods and their cities clean. I've been truly heartened to see how many young people have embraced this challenge of creating a cleaner home for themselves, for their friends, and their families. We've been able to partner with Youth for Guyana and businesses like ExxonMobil, Republic Bank, Caribbean Containers, and of course the Georgetown Chamber to take this to the next level. We've seen some people start related volunteer groups on their own, Berbice Shines and Linden Shines, each doing some amazing things for their communities. All of these people come out on their own, take their Sunday morning, and without a lot of fanfare, go out and make a positive difference in their community. And this also helps build their character and the character of their colleagues. I'm encouraged in this effort that the government has followed suit and initiated its own Pick It Up campaigns, and that there's a new cleanup campaign in the city. And I think that together, all of these combined efforts, and I hope with cooperation between city and government and private stakeholders, that we can begin to see some positive results. I know also as part of Guyana Shines, we've had these many young volunteers who have visited schools with us to make presentations on building that awareness, because we all know that educating young people is going to be one of the most effective ways to transform the attitudes of the country as a whole. It's how we did this in the US in the 60s and 70s. And I know in the span of 1 year, we were able to visit 62 primary, secondary schools throughout Georgetown, and I think leave many of the students with a lasting sense of the importance of the environment. I highlight this Guyana Shines program today because, as some of you may recall, when we began this effort, there were many who were skeptical or critical, just as the Blue Caps have encountered. But we persevered, and we have proven the critics wrong, just as all of you will. When we began the engagement, it was because we wanted to inject some new thinking and new approach to deal with a long-standing problem. After seeing the condition of the capital and the country as a whole, and the long-standing finger-pointing between the city and national governments, we decided that we wanted to make a difference as a mission and try to change the dynamic. So we joined with our diplomatic partners and some local partners to try to change the national consciousness, if you will, in favor of the environment. And as this takes root, I can assure you that it will lead to many other positive developments in Guyana. Civic pride is really an extraordinary thing. Guyana had it. You see old pictures 50, 60 years ago. It lost it, and now it needs to reclaim it. Think about, again, how this took place in New York. New York, when I was growing up, was a place you wouldn't want to go to. It was dangerous. It was full of graffiti, full of broken down buildings. And now it's a safe place, a prosperous place. You can go almost any place in the city safely. So I therefore call on all of you, all Guyanese and young Guyanese in particular, to overcome this cynicism and take care of your country and its environment for yourselves and your children. We've also been able to work with young people in life and skills development through USAID and our Skills Knowledge for Youth Employment Program, SKY. We've already trained over 1,200 young people, and more than 400 of these have already found gainful employment. By building partnerships with business, like the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, we've successfully linked companies to the SKY graduates, and these graduates have proven themselves to be reliable, high-performing young people that employers can trust. And of course, Blue Cap's own Clinton Erling was instrumental in making this happen. And Clinton, I certainly want to thank you for your partnership with us on the SKY program, which will continue as more and more people find their way into the job market. We also engage young people in an entrepreneurial mode through something we call the Entrepreneurial Speed Challenge, where we brought together young, talented entrepreneurs who were able to pitch their ideas to investors and bankers. And I already understand that some of these good ideas have been receiving funding from investors, and they're off and running. Now, during some of the many media interviews over the past couple of weeks, I've been often asked if there's any unfinished business or anything that I wished had happened during my tenure. Well, when it comes to unfinished business, there is an issue that comes to mind that is near and dear, I know, to your hearts as well: local government elections. This is an area where I think our embassy's engagement, together with our diplomatic partners, has been pivotal in elevating public consciousness of the importance of these elections. Because of this engagement, public recognition is rapidly expanding that they need to take place. They're constitutionally required. They'll bring citizens even closer to their elected representatives, and it will increase accountability on issues ranging from trash pickup to fixing local roads. You may recall it was back in January 2013 when my ABCE colleagues and I joined in calling for 2013 to be the year for local government elections. We did so in part because this was an issue on which all parties were in agreement. And in an environment, as has been noted, of political division, we are looking for ways to try to encourage some mutual confidence and some steps toward political consensus. So we then engaged actively with all parties to encourage passage of legislation that year, which was a historic achievement. It got done, but it's an incomplete achievement. It took a second op-ed, this time supported by a broad range of civil society groups, and some behind-the-scenes engagement and encouragement to nudge these bills across the finish line. But we got there. Then again, earlier this year, 2014, we didn't get elections in 2013, but we retain hope for 2014. The issue started to fade a bit from the public view, and we again joined with an ever-expanding group of civil society groups to refocus attention on local elections. And we are delighted that we're now seeing civil society is in the lead, demanding the elections. And let me be very clear, you will need to continue doing so, and doing so with persistence. Because it appears, unfortunately, that local government elections will not be called unless the people of Guyana demand them, demand their constitutional right, and raise your voices in ever greater numbers. The reality is that local government elections should and could have already been called. There's no reason why not. Imagine if the green light had been given in January to begin preparations. We could be days away from local government elections today. To my mind, there's a structural flaw, a fundamental flaw, with the system in which elections are constitutionally and legally required, but they're perpetually delayed. We've seen a seemingly expanding array of excuses offered for not abiding by the Constitution. For example, the idea that there may need to be a national election. But that can't be an excuse, because every government under the Westminster system will always want to have that option in its back pocket. And the reality is that even if government set a date for local government elections, the call for a national election would always take precedence, so you could have those national elections anyway. But by not even setting a date, the government keeps local government elections always off in a distant, elusive horizon. The purposeful delay after 20 years without elections is, it bears repeating, contrary to the Constitution and the laws of Guyana. The President has correctly cast himself as a defender of the Constitution, which is certainly one of his core responsibilities as President. And he's claimed that his opposition to certain National Assembly bills are based on his desire to abide by the Constitution. But he cannot be an inconsistent defender of the Constitution, ignoring the Constitution's very clear requirement to hold local elections, and for that matter, to return bills to Parliament no more than 21 days after they're sent to him. One of the more creative excuses came from the PPP General Secretary, who suggested that the people of Guyana were not in the mood for local government elections. But the Constitution and the legislation do not say that elections should be held every 3 years unless some members of the governing party feel that the people are not in the mood for local government elections. Elections are constitutionally and legislatively mandated. They're not dependent on a mood. In fact, in a democracy, the best way to assess the mood of the people is to hold an election. The delay has also been attributed to historical context, but all of those so-called historical issues put forward have been resolved and are no longer relevant. Again, there's nothing in the way. And finally, suggestions that GCOM is not prepared or that people are not ready have also been shown to ring hollow by GCOM and by people such as yourselves, the Blue Caps, who have made clear that the people of this country are very much ready for local government elections. In the midst of these attempted justifications for delay, it's noteworthy that the President has recently called City Hall, and I quote, just a disaster. He lamented that there is so much to be done around the city that isn't being done. So why would he not wish to hold local government elections to create some democratic accountability within the city? The President has said that citizens should raise their voices a bit more as far as that is concerned, end quote. But citizens are raising their voices. They're saying they want local government elections to address the situation. They want to raise their votes, but only he can give them that opportunity. And it's past time for him to do that. Indeed, the PPP itself is on record strongly supporting local government elections. In its 2011 manifesto, under the rubric of reinvigorating local government, the PPP promised that it would ensure within 1 year of the 2011 general elections that local government elections are held by the end of 2012. In January 2013, President Ramatar said the government wanted to hold local government elections, adding that the process is ongoing to put in place the necessary conditions. Quote, I cannot hold local government elections until those bills are passed, he explained. Well, those bills are now passed. In July 2013, the President asserted, the fact that we did not have these elections has nothing to do with a lack of will on our part. I know that it is badly needed because many of the problems we face are due to the fact that we did not have local government elections. So now is a chance to solve those problems. Most recently, the President has said, it's not like we don't want local elections, but there's a certain level of uncertainty. I would prefer to go to local government elections, but I cannot shut my eyes to the reality that exists and make a bland promise that I would go to local government elections tomorrow, as I would have done if we had a majority in Parliament. But the reality is there will always be uncertainty in politics. The situation will always be unsettled. The President has also referred to the impact of the anti-money laundering bill. But AML sanctions are not something that will be turned on and off like a spigot. In fact, FATF will not fully review Guyana for 6 months, which, by the way, is exactly the amount of time required for GCOM to prepare for local government elections. So again, AML uncertainties are not an adequate justification for further delay. The President also recently indicated that he would have called elections if his government had the majority in Parliament. But again, the Constitution does not say elections every 3 years except when the executive does not have a majority. It simply says every 3 years. Finally, I should note that the President's reason given for rejecting the local government election bill in Parliament is essentially a reason that he generated by not abiding by the constitutional requirement for responding to bills sent to Parliament. He advised Parliament that he did not assent, quote, because GCOM has publicly declared that it is impractical to hold local government elections on or before August 1st. Of course, had the President assented within the constitutionally required 21-day time limit, there would have been ample time to meet the schedule. So essentially he's saying, I've delayed the bill long enough that the time frame for this bill is no longer adequate. So in the midst of these excuses for delay, happily, many civic and international entities have been speaking out, led by all of you, the Blue Caps, and with strong support from media entities such as Starbuck News. The Private Sector Commission recently said that there is, again, no reason why local government elections should not be called as soon as possible, and they argued that the lengthy delay in holding local government elections has had a huge impact on the quality of services offered to local authorities. Likewise, the Georgetown Chamber, under Clinton's leadership, has been a consistent advocate for local government elections, seeing their critical links to Georgetown's development. The United Kingdom High Commissioner recently suggested that Guyana's democratic gains are under threat, adding that the decision thus far not to have local government elections is a stain on Guyana's international standing. High Commissioner also noted that the reasons given for delay are a clear breach of the Constitution and the Commonwealth Charter. And I certainly join my UK colleague in calling on the government to deliver what governments are constitutionally required to deliver, in which the PPP and all other parties promised voters in 2011 that they would deliver. So what then is the reason for not having elections? GCOM has reaffirmed its readiness to hold local government elections whenever called upon to do so. Articles 71, 1, 2, and 78B make clear that local governance is a core part of the governing architecture of this country. Local Authorities Election Act calls for elections every 3 years, the first week of December. I've yet to hear any compelling reason for not doing so. But in the face of all this, I still believe that President Ramotar has a tremendous opportunity to make a historic contribution to Guyana's political development by being the president who restores elected local governance in Guyana, a long-standing national goal and something that PPP founder Chetty Jagan fervently believed in. After all this, you may ask why I, as a U.S. diplomat, care so much about local government elections. The answer, simply, is that I see it as a genuinely transformative issue for Guyana. Local communities need freedom, autonomy, and the ability to explore ways to develop themselves. People face all kinds of local challenges, and they want workable solutions. Guyanese are innovative and creative, but they need the opportunity to cultivate these talents on the local level. Central control has choked off local creativity and initiative for far too long. And this in turn has led to a disconnect between people and governance, a problem exacerbated by the parliamentary list system. People don't know to whom to turn, where to turn to resolve their day-to-day problems. Citizens want to be able to play their part, to call up a local leader and to get action, but they're not sure where to turn. Thankfully, the Blue Caps, all of you understand that. For a society to fully realize its potential, young people must play an active role. I applaud the Blue Caps' goals to offer a platform for young Guyanese citizens to help shape and articulate public policy, to educate future leaders who will go back into their communities, help solve problems, and bring about positive change and development, and to respect one another and cultivate a culture of trust and honesty. These goals and these values will serve you very well as you move forward to help make local government elections a reality and raise awareness on a whole host of other issues, from the environment, respect for human rights, LGBT rights, trafficking in persons, and much, much more. President John F. Kennedy, who inspired a generation of Americans by creating the Peace Corps, famously said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." He also said, "Let us not seek the Republican answer or the Democratic answer, but the right answer. Let us not seek to fix the blame for the past. Let us accept our own responsibility for the future." These are wise words and still very relevant today. So as I get ready to pass the baton on to my successor, I want you to know that it's been a real privilege and an honor working with you, especially all of you young people, to help build a prosperous, safe, peaceful, and democratic Guyana. And I'd like to leave you with a few choice words to ponder from a few other great sources. And I apologize, there's three of them, but they're all so good that they could spark some thinking. Brother of John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, said, "Our answer is the world's hope. It is to rely on youth. The cruelties and obstacles of this swiftly changing planet will not yield to obsolete dogmas and outworn slogans. It cannot be moved by those who cling to a present which is already dying, who prefer the illusion of security to the excitement of danger. It demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of the imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of ease. And then there was Benjamin Disraeli, the 19th century UK statesman, who once said, and this is very short but sweet, almost everything that is great has been done by youth. So remember that. And I tell my boys this as well, you know, just because you're young, don't think you can't do anything great. And then finally, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the great American thinker and poet, wrote, "So nigh is grandeur to our dust, so near is God to man. When duty whispers low, thou must, the youth replies, I can." So I wish you all the best. Go forth and conquer. Thank you.